Hey traders, and welcome to another video. I am Steven, your honest trading coach, and today I'm going to be teaching you a strategy that I use in order to swing trade very accurately that only uses price action, no indicators involved whatsoever. This is the same strategy I used in order to get involved in the trade you see on the screen here on the Canada Swiss that's currently up around 160 pips at a 3-to-1 reward to risk ratio. So if you want a breakdown of that entire trade along with the full strategy that I use in order to place this trade. On top of that, I'll be breaking down the top 5 major pairs as well using this strategy and breaking down gold, Bitcoin, and the SPY. So if that sounds like something that'll be interesting to you, be sure to go ahead and like this video, go ahead and subscribe if you are new, and I'll see you right after the intro and disclaimer. Welcome back, and let's go ahead and get started with the euro dollar. In case you don't know, this is a video that I'm doing weekly now where I'm breaking down the top 5 major pairs using my price action swing trading strategy you're about to learn. It's a pretty simple strategy. I can break it down really quickly, but what's going to be really beneficial is me showing you on charts in live data what I'm looking at and what I'm expecting in the next couple of weeks on all these currency pairs. So stick around through that, but let's go ahead and talk about the strategy itself. What we are looking for is we're going to be using 2 different time frames. On a higher time frame, which for me as a swing trader is going to be the daily chart, I'm looking for prices to be trending in a particular direction. Once I look at a chart and I see that price is trending down, I'm looking for 2 different things. The first thing I'm looking for is where is it that price, if it pulls back, will most likely see resistance in a downtrend. In this case, it would be like this, resistance in a downtrend. If we're in a downtrend, the expectation is that we continue that downtrend, but I want to know a precise area where this pullback is likely to come to. And if we do get a pullback to that precise area, that price is likely to continue in that downtrend. The opposite would be true for an uptrend. I'll draw that out as well for you. We would have price heading higher, and we would be looking for an area in price where price is likely to do what? Pull back to and eventually continue that uptrend. That's the first thing I'm looking for. As I said, I'll be looking for 2 different things. The next thing I'm looking for is if we're in a downtrend, what is a level in price below where current price is that we're likely to see the pullback start. This for me is always the latest level of support that price has not touched yet on the way down. So if we're trending down like our drawing here, and we look left and see something like this in the past, then this would be my next level of support price will hit if it continues lower. And in turn, that is going to be the most likely area that price pulls back from. Even if we continue in this downtrend, this will be my most likely area for a pullback to happen. Hopefully that makes sense. If not, don't worry. We're going to go through 5 different currency pairs, break this down, as well as we're going to break down the entire trade on the Canada Swiss and look at Bitcoin and the SPY. So let's go ahead and get started with the euro dollar. Here on the euro dollar, what type of trend do you see? Well, this is an obvious downtrend, right? We have price pushing low into lower lows, pushing up into a pullback. Where'd that pullback come to? Previous support, which should turn to resistance, and it did. And with that being the case, what have we now done? We have now broken and closed below our previous low. And last week, what we talked about is that if this happens, there's 2 scenarios. Price will either continue lower, in which case we'll talk about in a second. We have our area of support pointed out, or price will pull back into the previous area of support it just broken. In this case, this is my perfect swing trading scenario for trend continuation. So if I'm expecting trend continuation out here on the daily chart and I want to see this move, what I'm going to do when price gets into this area is I'm going to drop down to the 4-hour chart as a swing trader, and I'm going to look for entries on a 4-hour chart, but only when price pulls back to a major level of structure during this downtrend. So we're in a downtrend right now. We've just broken below a level of support looking left. I want to see price pull back into that level of support. I want to drop down to a smaller time frame. For me, it's the 4-hour, and I'm going to be looking for selling pressure on that time frame using candlestick patterns and chart patterns like double tops and like big long wicks to the upside showing me selling pressure from a standpoint of candlestick patterns, okay? So that's one of the things we're looking for here on the euro dollar right now. The next thing I want to talk about is, okay, we have price pushing down, new highs and new lows. The next thing I want to know is if we do continue pushing lower, where's the next place we will likely see a pullback from? In order to find that, all we have to do is look at price where it is, go down and look left and find the last area. If we put a horizontal line at price, where was the last area below this that price was supported by? Right here. If we go down and to the left of our horizontal line, we can see that very clearly. So with that being the case, this is our next area of support that the pullback on this downtrend is likely to start from. So we are currently in a downtrend, right? Well, the pullback on these downtrends very often lines up with the previous level of support looking left. And to prove that to you, if we look at our horizontal line right here, this one, that we can see if we move left, you'll see that this was also a previous area of support. Since price came to that previous area of support, it then created the pullback from our overall downtrend. So that tends to happen over and over. And after we start to see the pullback from our downtrend, the very likely scenario is that we're going to come to a previous level of support that was just broken in order to provide more resistance and continue in that downward direction. So on the euro dollar, this is what we're looking at, either a pullback into our area we pointed out last week or a push down to our area we pointed out last week. These areas are between 1.0902 for resistance and 1.0814. That would be our zone of resistance. For the zone of support, we're looking at 1.0696 and 1.0640. Next up, let's take a look at the dollar yen and do the same exact thing. So here on the dollar yen, we talked about it last week. There is no resistance looking left because we're as high as we've been since 2006 on the dollar versus the yen. So we don't have enough data to go back and see what's the next level of resistance. That's totally fine. I'm not really looking to sell the dollar yen at this point anyway. But with this all coming together, what we do have is price has just pushed up and then created a new high. If price has done this 1, 2, 3 move, which is what I call these, 1, 2, 3, just try to keep things simple. The pullback being 2, the first impulsive move being 1, the break of the high that created the pullback being number 3. So now that we have this 1, 2, 3 move, the likely scenario is that we get a pullback into our high that was just broken between 124.65 and 123.84. If that happens, this is going to be an area that I'm dropping down to lower time frames like the 4-hour chart to look for possible entries on the dollar yen. That's really all I'm looking at right now on the dollar yen, considering where this pair is. Next up, let's take a look at the dollar Swiss. Here on the dollar Swiss, very interesting. We've actually come to an area we pointed out last week for resistance. This area, and I'll show you why in just a second, is between 0.9543 and 0.9511. Why was this resistance? Well, if we're looking at price, we've just now pushed up and broken above a previous level of resistance. We talked about this in last week's video as well, so be sure you're subscribed so you keep up with these videos. Everything will make a lot more sense if you do. But last week, price was floating around this area. And we said that if price, in fact, does push up and close above this high, then I'll be expecting and waiting for price to possibly pull back to this area and possibly get to these highs, which we did. And let me scroll left for you. I'll explain why this zone even exists on my chart. If we scroll left, you'll see that this area, if we're right where price is right now, this area is the last level that provided resistance. It also happens to be a level that price has used multiple times as support and resistance, adding to the accuracy of this level. So now that price is in this zone, this is literally what I'm looking for right now on the dollar Swiss. I'm currently long on the dollar Swiss. This is taking a long time. There we go. So I'm currently long on the dollar Swiss, and I'm looking right now on smaller time frames like the 4-hour and maybe even the 1-hour chart in this scenario for selling pressure. If I get selling pressure defined by candlestick or chart patterns, then I'm going to be exiting the long position and starting to look for possible sell positions here on the dollar Swiss. So that's what I'm looking at right now, considering where price is. If price does begin to pull back, whether I get an entry or not, The next place I'm looking for long trades is in this area. The previous high that was broken around 0.9446, between that and 0.94 even is an area if we get a pullback that I'll look for possible long trades. You may be thinking to yourself, Steven, why would you want to try to find short trades when this is all the room you have? Well, let's measure it and consider we're taking a position on a smaller time frame. So this is about 70 pips. Even on a 4-hour chart on the dollar Swiss, my stop loss is probably going to be 30 pips or less, maybe a little bit more than 30. But as long as I give myself enough room to get over a 1-to-1, which in this case, I'll be easily able to get like a 1.8 up to a 2 or more on a short trade, if I can get one pretty quickly out of the dollar Swiss, I'm totally fine with that. So I'm okay with looking for sells here and then looking for buys if we get back down into this area. But if that's not something you're okay with, just don't use the counter trend levels and instead just wait on this pullback into our zone here for possible trades on smaller time frames. Not financial advice, don't actually do that, just giving you ideas of what you could do. Next up, we're going to take a look at the pound against the dollar. Here on the pound dollar, last week we said that if price continues lower and breaks below this level of support, that we'll look at that as possible resistance continuing lower. And back to the breakdown we talked about on the euro dollar, that's exactly what's happening here. We're waiting on a 1, 2, 3 move. We have 1, we have our pullback being 2, we need 3 to actually close below this level and start to push lower before we can look at this level as possible resistance and try to capture a continuation of this downtrend, which is overall what we're trying to do here with the trend continuation part of this swing trading strategy. So if price does continue lower this week, then we'll be looking for a pullback into this area between 1.3052 and 1.2981. If we get that pullback to that area, I'll be looking on smaller time frames for possible entries using price action. If we just continue lower and do not get a pullback, then this area is my next level of support. Price will likely hit if we do continue lower. And if we do continue lower, it'll inevitably hit this area as long as it keeps going down. Now, why is this area pointed out as a possible area I would look for long trades? Well, let's scroll left and you'll see. As we're pushing lower from this area, the next level of major support I see is right here in combination with a couple of other levels to create our actual zone. And with that being the case, if price continues lower, I know this zone is where the likely place for a pullback to start is. That's exactly what is likely to happen. It doesn't happen every time, but it's very likely that we see a bounce out of price, even though we're in a downtrend, from an area between 1.2815 and 1.2722. I'll be preparing for that buy, waiting for price to get to that level, going to lower time frames, and looking for possible buy trades. So those are the scenarios I see playing out on the pound dollar. We could also see price just automatically start pushing up. And that's not as likely, but if we do see that, I'll be waiting for a break of this level, a pullback to it, and then possible buy trades out of this level here. Next up, let's take a look at the Aussie dollar before we break down the entire strategy on the Canada Swiss. On the Aussie dollar, we have price currently pushing lower. And from last week's video, we actually called price coming into this area that I marked out last week between 0.7406 and 0.7363. And I said this would be an area I looked for possible buy trades. I didn't actually get an entry. This was a possible entry that I didn't take, but I was considering. I'll go down to a smaller time frame, show you what I mean by that. Bullish pressure coming in to my zone. Normally my first target's at about a 1.4 to 1 reward to risk ratio. So that's why you see this position tool, but I didn't actually take this entry. So can't claim that one. Although we did come into this area, right? The important part being we came to the exact area I pointed out, and not because I pointed it out, it's because this was a previous area that price had used as support and resistance. It's not some kind of secret strategy. This is very simple actually, but it's something that provides a massive edge over the market if you perform it consistently. So I have no idea why more traders don't use this simple technique in order to increase the accuracy of their trades and overall increase their trading profits. But price did come into this area, this level, and we did see some support, as I said again in last week's video. And the reason I was expecting that last week was because we have what I consider a 1, 2, three move, breaking above our previous high price, pulling back to that previous high, gave me reason to believe we could see a higher high come into the picture. That's not what happened though. And instead we got a little bounce and price started pushing lower. So let's discuss what's next. Now that we've pushed below this zone, I'm no longer looking for long trades. I actually expect price to either shoot up or shoot down. If we go down, what's going to be the next level I'm paying attention to for possible buy trades? Well, that level is actually going to be right here. It's the previous level that price used as support. So if price continues lower, this is probably a long ways away in terms of time. This is a level I see as possible support. So if we come down to this area, which again may take a while, this is an area that's been tested as support and resistance looking left multiple times and will be an area I look for possible long trades. If we push up from here, I will not be looking here for possible sell trades. I discussed this last week. For those of you who did not see that last week, the reason I don't look for sell trades right here is because if price is doing this, and even if we push down like this, what is the likely scenario? The likely scenario, if we're consistently making higher lows along with higher highs, is that we make a higher high. So if that's the likely scenario, why would I want to try to sell from this high? That's why I'm not looking here for any type of selling trade. Instead, I'm going to be patient and wait for price to break above this level. If that happens, I'll wait for a pullback and I'll buy from the zone between 0.7623 and 0.7575. So that's kind of what I'm looking at here on the Aussie dollar. In terms of this exact strategy, I probably won't have a trading opportunity at least for the next week or so here on this pair because we're really far away from any important levels of structure that I plan to use to trade. So that's the top 5 major pairs. Next up, we're taking a look at the Canada Swiss trade you saw at the beginning so I can break down the entire strategy for you. Then we're going to take a look at Bitcoin and the SPY along with gold, because gold was the pair that you guys put in the comment section the most during the last video I did like this. So for those of you who are new, if you have a pair that you want me to break down, I don't care what it's in. It can be a stock or a currency pair or a crypto, whatever it is, put it in the comments. The one that's commented the most, I'll do in my next video and I'll break it down for you. So let's go ahead and take a look at the full trade on the Canada Swiss and I'll see you guys there. Here we are on the Canada Swiss chart. Let's go ahead and break this trade down. If you're looking at the chart, based on what you've learned so far in this video, why do you think I was interested in this as a trading opportunity from what you see right now? Well, hopefully you were able to say that we have just had a 1, 2, 3 move out of price, putting me into a buying mindset, not necessarily an uptrend. We're kind of in consolidation at the moment, but if we just now broke into new highs, a higher low is what I would overall expect. So with that in mind, almost stumbled over all my words right there. With that being in mind, where is it likely that the higher low comes to? Well, an area that was the last area broke in terms of resistance is likely going to become support if we're going to continue in an uptrend. That's what the scenario is. So with that being the case, that's the reason I was interested in this area to place a buy trade. Okay, so as long as I have this 1, 2, 3 move and we have higher highs happening, then I'm expecting a higher low. That higher low is most likely going to come from the previous high that was broken out of price. Now that I have that, what I decided to do is drop down to a smaller time frame. As I've just taught you, I like to go down to smaller time frames because it gives me a smaller stop loss and therefore larger reward to risk possibilities on my trades. So, and exactly like what you see here on the Canada Swiss with about a 3-to-1 reward to risk ratio. But down here, I started seeing a lot of buying pressure and I didn't enter quite yet. Here's what I waited on. All this buying pressure coming into the picture. And when I say buying pressure, very simply put, there was 3 green candles that were biggish green candles. One of them had a really long tail to the bottom. I'll zoom in a little more, probably makes it easier if I do. This one having a little bit of a longer tail to the bottom. I almost entered at this point, waited a couple more candles because I wanted to see what price would do, and I saw this. At this point, bears have now tried to push this market lower. If we're going to see this turn into a bearish move, it will likely be after a lot of bears try to do so at the beginning. So a lot of bears come into the picture, try to push the market down with this red candle. I actually got involved and entered the trade on this candle because that showed me that bulls were not ready to lose this level. The bulls did not want to see price keep going lower. If they did, it probably would have kept going lower, and we would not have seen this big green candle, which shows bulls pushing back against the bears. So with that being the case, every time I say bulls and bears, just think of bulls as green buying pressure, bears as red selling pressure, just in case you're brand new. But that's what I saw. That's the reason I decided to enter this trade out here on the 4-hour chart. And since then, as you can see, price just shot up. Now, that's not what price does every time. I have losing trades. Somewhere between 55 and 65% of the time is what I win with this exact setup, exactly what I'm showing you now. So it's not like I win every trade. And when people hear 55%, they oftentimes don't really think about it. That means I lose 45 times out of 100. That's a lot of losses to endure, but that's part of trading. So hopefully you can get used to that, because if you can't get used to losing trades, then you're going to have a really hard time becoming profitable anyway, right? So that was the Canada Swiss. Let's go ahead and move on now. Next up, we're going to take a look at gold. Gold was the most commented pair that we had in the last video like this that we did. So I want to go ahead and take a look at it, break it down for you guys using the same exact swing trading strategy that utilizes price action to find key points in the market to take advantage of. So right now on gold, looking at the chart, we are in an uptrend at this point as of this exact moment. Reason is that we have now created new highs compared to a lot of the previous highs. Price pushed down, got to one of these previous highs. Since then, we've pushed up a little. We've seen a big move down. One of two things are going to happen from here. And what I want you to get used to is, and what really changed my trading once I became accustomed to this, was that anytime I look at a chart, there are two different scenarios. Price is either going to drop or go up eventually. Again, we may consolidate here for a while, but eventually we're gonna do one of those two things, right? So what I wanna prepare myself for is, if price goes lower, where am I gonna be looking to buy? If price goes higher, where am I gonna be looking to sell? So in this exact situation, and from where price is right now, is where you need to be asking that question from, if that makes sense. So if price from where it is right now goes down, where do I need to look for possible buy trades? Is it right here? Well, for me, no. At this point, we've pushed up. This is kind of the end of the pullback, and bulls tried to rally from this area. But if they can't cause higher highs from this initial push up, the more likely scenario is that we push up and then we break below this level. If we break below that level, look down and to the left, the next level we have is right here. So this is the next level price will get to if bears take over and we push below these previous lows. If that's the case, this is my next level I want to pay attention to for possible buy trades. That level's between 1873 and 1851. If the price of gold gets down to this level, it's an area I'll look for possible buy trades out of on lower time frames. Now, the other scenario is that price could do what? Start heading higher. If price starts heading higher and we get back up to this area, do I want to be a seller right here? Let's take a look at this. So for an uptrend, what happens in an uptrend? In an uptrend, this happens all the time. Every time price creates new higher highs above its previous highs, it comes to a situation where there's a double top scenario. So this being that double top scenario, is this where you want to start trying to look for sell trades? Well, not for me. Not my logical brain will not make sense of this. If we're in an uptrend, and chances are we're going to continue in that uptrend, if we do create a higher low, then at this high is not where I'm looking for sell trades. No way. So with that being the case for me, I'm not going to be looking for sell trades here. Instead, I'll wait for price to break above that level. This is when I can start looking for trades. After price breaks above this area right here, that will be what I look for, is a pullback into the area of about 2068. Between that and 2044 bucks, that's where I'll look for a pullback and possible entries on lower time frames. This is kind of like a dollar yen situation. We really don't have a high that we can see above where the highest high that has been made is. So with that being the case, nothing we can look for in terms of selling trades. So the only two trades I would be looking for on gold right now are the two situations where, first off, we get down to our previous level of support and we get possible buy trades there, or we get a big rally that breaks above these previous highs, then a pullback into that area would provide some support, and this is where I would look for trades. that is my breakdown of gold and what I'll be looking for in terms of swing trading, going from the daily chart for my analysis down to the 4-hour, maybe the 1-hour for possible entries. Next up, let's take a look at Bitcoin. So last week on Bitcoin, we talked about this area right here being a minor level of structure that I could look for possible buys from, but I needed it to be a very conservative entry, like a double bottom, that breaks through the neckline, very conservative, not a candlestick pattern, not just a double bottom. I need to see a lot of bullish pressure in order to tell me that the market wants to go higher from this little minor level. Never did get that. So since I didn't get that, this level is now completely irrelevant. The next thing that I'm looking for in terms of buy trades on Bitcoin is price to actually get into my zone. We got really close here, and that might be all price needed in order to push up. We may see bulls semi take over from this point. That's very possible, but I didn't have a trade. I didn't get a trade to add to my long position on Bitcoin yet. I will have that opportunity though if price does continue a little bit lower, get between 38,171 and 36,618, and then give me a reason to buy with something like a candlestick pattern or even a double bottom or some kind of head and shoulders pattern inverted on a lower time frame. That's what I'll be looking for in this area if we do continue lower on Bitcoin. If we start to push higher, I'm not looking here for short trades. Can anyone tell me why? If so, write it in the comments. You don't have to write out the whole thing, just say, yeah, I know why. And here's why I'm saying that is because I've explained this multiple times, right? If we're doing this and price is consistently creating higher highs and higher lows, what's the likely scenario? That we're going to continue creating higher highs and higher lows. That's called a trending market. When price is in an uptrend, then it is likely that it's going to continue creating higher highs and higher lows. So right now on Bitcoin, what's happened? Low, high, higher low, higher high compared to the previous high. At this point, the most likely scenario, it's not 100%, doesn't mean it always happens, but the more likely scenario is a higher low and then a higher high. So I'm not going to be trying to sell from this area here. It just doesn't make any logical sense to me. So with that being the case, if price does take this big move up, I'll have to wait for a break and close above this level and a pullback to that level around 47,804 and 46,481 for possible buy trades. Now, if we get up to this area between 52,808 and 50, about 5,100 even, not 5,100, 51,000 is an area that I can look for possible sell trades. At this area would be a area I look for possible sells. And again, the reason for that is because that's the area that the next big pullback is likely to come from, because it's the next resistance price will hit if it continues higher past its previous swing high, past its previous resistance level. So that's my breakdown on Bitcoin. Next up, let's look at the SPY, SPY. Here we go. On this pair, we talked about it last week. There's really not much that's going to be happening unless we get some huge moves out of this. Right now, I said this pair. I realize it's not a pair, but that's what my brain has been saying throughout the entire video. So if I call the SPY a pair multiple times, sorry, it's going to happen. But anyway, here on the SPY, what we have is two different scenarios, like every other currency pair or crypto we've looked at. The two scenarios are we're either going to go up or down. If we go up, am I looking at this as a level of resistance I want to sell from? Hopefully you said no. I do not want to sell from this level. We have had a break of resistance, a low, higher low, now another higher low. If we continue higher, chances are we break into higher highs. I don't want to be selling from this high. I'll sell from the next high, because from the next high, that's the area the pullback is likely to happen at. And also another thing that I am looking for is a break of this high, so I can look there for possible buy trades around 462.36 and 457. If that happens again, I'll be looking for buy trades there on lower time frames. Another way I can look for buy trades is if price actually continues lower. If price does continue lower and get between the 417 and 411 area, that will be an area I also look for possible buy trades here on the SPY. So I didn't get finished editing the video yesterday, so it's the next day now, and the dollar Swiss did exactly what I was expecting, came up into our area, and I saw some selling pressure. And right now you can see that I do currently have a short position on the dollar Swiss, meaning if you're new, I'm making money as it goes down. And I've already taken off my first targets on this trade. This was also a trade we sent out to members of the TTC Forex University. So for those of you looking for some more advanced training and a more step-by-step systematic approach to learning how to become a professional trader, then we do have a few spots available in the TTC Forex University. You can find it linked in the description or go to www.ttcfxuniversity.com. That link is also on the screen. In it, you'll receive a full training course teaching you everything you need to know about the basics of Forex, the strategies I use, risk management, a lot about trading psychology. You'll get a video each week of the best areas, just like I showed you in this video, that I'm seeing for possible trading opportunities. Along with that, I do send out 3 to 5 email analysis like the one you saw on the dollar Swiss as well. So if you're interested in that, again, it's linked in the description, or you can go to the link on the screen. With that said, that is my analysis on the top 5 major pairs, on gold, on Bitcoin, on the SPY as well. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If it was helpful, click the like button. Make sure to comment below what you'd like for me to analyze in the next video I do like this. It'll either be next week or the next, depending on how much markets move. But make sure to go ahead and comment whatever you'd like to see next, and I'll be sure to add that to the list, whatever the most popular comment is. Hope you guys have a great week. Hope you trade green, and I'll talk to you in the next video. See you soon.